If you need artist slash producer management, shoot me a direct message. Let's make some moves.
Yeah, I don't know any legit manager that offers services like that publicly. Like it just doesn't happen.
Peace, what's going down? It's the Music Entrepreneur Club podcast. This is episode number 32, which also happens to be Dame's legal age. What's going down, Dame? How are you feeling this morning?
My legal age?
You have connections. Like I said, they're the blood rituals. You can do anything you want when you're plugged in.
I'm getting over a cold, man, but I feel like we gotta like turn up more on this podcast, make it more interesting to get more listeners. I was watching or listening to Nori's podcast, The Drinking Champs, and he just got a voice that entertains people, man. We gotta turn up, Payne. We gotta figure this
Yeah,
out.
you got to start getting drunk at 9 in the morning.
That well, it's shit. It's usually earlier for me, but nah, it's not. That's not happening. Anyway, man, wanted to start this podcast off. Big Ja is a comedian director that I manage. A lot of people know that already, but he was invited into the Instagram office, and they basically were giving us tips on how to grow their Instagram audience. Now, I don't think these tips are for everybody. I really don't think there's not much advice that's for everybody in the entertainment industry. And that's why we have the Music Entrepreneur Club and have live weekly sessions so we can have dialogue and go back and forth and you can ask questions. You see how I plugged the MEC right there, Payne? But this is what they told us. This is what they told us. So the advice that I would take from them is that you should use all of their surfaces. And when they referred to surfaces, they meant like all of the different ways to use Instagram, right? So IGTV is a surface, story is a surface, live is a surface, a regular picture is a surface, and then the video that appears on the feed, which is like 60 seconds or under, that's another surface. So they encouraged us to use all of them to get the full benefit of Instagram and get the full reach. Now that I think is smart advice. Now, the number of each of these posts that you should make per week, this is what they said. They said, so for pictures, you should be posting 4 pictures a week. Now, for some people like us, the Music Entrepreneur Club page, like, I don't know. I mean, I guess we could post some motivational stuff, but I don't think people want to see like pictures of us, right? So I don't know if we're going to adhere to the 4 pictures per week, but that's what they said. And they said, and let me take a step back. They also said that if you're not doing these things already, like, don't just start doing them right away, right? Like, ease into it and kind of like teach your algorithm over time. So 4 pictures per week, one IGTV video per week, and the recommended length of time of that video should be about 3 minutes, right? So one IGTV video a week. We definitely post a lot more than that. I post three my damn self. So one IGTV video a week, about 3 minutes. They said you should go live once a week, and the length in which you should go live is the full hour, right? So you have an hour to go live. They give you that much time. They said you should use the whole hour. We're going to start going live, or I'm going to start going live more on the Music Entrepreneur Club page. I think we're either going to go back to doing the Insta Gems, or we might do Share Your Win Sunday live and just bring people on and see what they got accomplished last week. But anyway, I think that's something that we have to start doing again. So and they also said one IG video, so the 60 seconds or less, right? 60 seconds or less, do one of those a week, right? So just to recap, 4 pictures, one IGTV video, one actual video, go live for 60 seconds. And then what am I missing? Story, 8 stories a day. That was quite a bit. Like, I don't even know. I mean, I guess, people that are used to in the habit of posting stories, they can do 8 fairly easy. And even if you share some stuff to stories, like, that counts. So those are the recommended number of things to post on the different surfaces. Of course, if you have whack content and you're just forcing yourself to post that many times, that's not ideal. But I thought I'd pass along that information since it came directly from Instagram in the Instagram office. So take from it what you will.
And probably you get more likes and views if you incorporate symbols of the New World Order into your Instagram post. Did they tell you that part?
No idea. No idea. But there was a cat in there that made a good point. Again, going back to, everybody has kind of their own lane. They know their audience. They know what their audience wants. The cat that was in there happened to be one of the best dunkers in the world. I think his name is Chris Staples. And he was basically saying, like, look, nobody wants to see a picture of me. They want to see me dunk. They want to see me 360 windmill behind the back, under the legs, over the trash can, over the car, whatever. And that made a lot of sense to me because I for damn sure wouldn't want to see a picture of him. I want to see his next best dunk. And I think that in order to get reposted by ESPN, House of Highlights, Sideline Sources, any of the bigger like sporting pages, they're probably not going to repost a picture of him. They're going to repost a crazy dunk. So to me, that makes a lot of sense for him not to adhere to those guidelines because of what he does and what his audience wants to see. So again, I think it's, you have to figure out, who your audience is, what they want to see. But knowing those guidelines and what those recommended targets are, I think is healthy.
Yeah, and we talked about this. I just think a lot of people struggle with what to post, and they also struggle with what not to post. In the sense that, if you're an artist, and I still hear this, even though it's a cliche that was around, that stigmatized social media use 10, 15 years ago. What am I going to post on Instagram? No one wants to see my breakfast. It's like, come on. Do you really look at celebrities' pages and see them posting their damn breakfast all the time? There's a lot of content that you can create that will engage people. Right. So that's on the one hand, and you can look at our podcast. And my videos, we give suggestions. You can Google what to post on Instagram. You can Google what kinds of content is most engaging on social media, and you'll get tons of results that's based on research. And then you just apply that to your brand. But then on the other hand, you have people that are artists, whether they're rappers, producers, visual artists, designers, whatever, and you see a whole bunch of weird stuff on their timeline. You'll see them posting, yes, their lunch, their breakfast. Here's a bowl of soup. I'm going to post this. Here's a picture of my friend's dog. No one wants to see that if you're trying to promote your art and you have a brand that isn't about soup, and maybe your neighbor's dog isn't central to your brand. So why do you want to post that? And I'll have conversations with people and they say, well, maybe I can create a separate Instagram page just for soup. I'm like, look, man, if you want to put yourself through that, fine. But all it takes is you analyzing your own. And we actually do this. We do this on Beat Club. I did it with Mike Trampy earlier this month, where we just look at people's social media, and our members will submit their Instagram pages, and we'll look at them and we'll analyze which ones are doing the best, which ones are getting the most engagement, and figure out a way to enhance that and make that more of a regular thing. So the data are out there. You just have to look at it and use it and accept the fact that maybe nobody cares that you got a pedicure, and they would rather see you do what you do best, which is make music, paint, dance, whatever it is.
Like if you're having trouble like figuring out what to post, to me that means you don't have a compelling story. You don't really have a good understanding of your brand. You don't really know what you want to tell people about yourself. So if you're having a trouble figuring out what to post and what's interesting, that means your brand and your story right now is not compelling, is not interesting, and that's what you need to figure out first. Like for some people, their breakfast might be part of their brand because maybe they're vegan and they're showing their audience like what they're eating for breakfast, trying to give their audience tips in case they're aspiring vegans that they don't really know, what they should be eating. So a breakfast might fit into your brand. But if it has nothing to do with anything, then no, your breakfast is not going to make sense to anybody.
It probably doesn't. That's like 1.5% of everybody.
Or I mean, maybe you freestyle at breakfast. So it's not a picture of your breakfast. It's breakfast freestyles, and that's what you do every morning or every Sunday. Because do Sunday cartoons still come on? Do kids still watch cartoons?
Nah,
Or like,
I think kids just go on TikTok.
yeah, well, yeah, I guess. So like, because that would be pretty dope. Like a weekly, if you're a young cat, and it's like a weekly breakfast cereal freestyle while you're watching your favorite cartoon, like that would be pretty dope. So again, man, it's so hard to give. Like, I mean, of course, there's stuff we stay on here that applies to everybody, but it's so important that you guys join our actual dialogue on a weekly basis so that we can have an actual discussion and you can ask questions that relate specific to your brand. Because it's so hard to just give advice. And I see a lot of people doing it too. A lot of like gurus in the music industry, they give this blanket ass advice, and it's so unhelpful because there's so many exceptions to rules. There's not that many rules where it's just like, okay, this is for everybody. Um, but we can move on, Payne. I think people get it.
So let's talk about another exception. So last night I had somebody contact me and ask me if they needed a manager. Now, granted, this is a person who is just starting out, isn't making money off of their music, isn't overwhelmed by their business, isn't getting a bunch of inquiries, isn't getting contracts sent to them, isn't touring. I mean, really, there's no need for this person to have someone else step in to manage what they have going on because they just need to build up what their brand is so that they actually have a need for something or for someone to manage them and step in. But already that's a red flag. But he had some guy either reach out to him or he reached out to this person and this person claimed he can manage him. And he made a lot of promises that aren't necessarily the core of what the average manager does, such as manage his Snapchat and social media, get him placements, just stuff that's all over the place. Kind of like if you walk into a store and they're like, "Yeah, we have a buffet. We'll do your nails. We have a barber shop. We'll prepare your taxes. We will clean your car. We'll do some auto detailing." You're gonna
One
say,
stop
"What?
shop.
Yeah,
I
what is going on? No, I'm not eating here."
don't know if they can do all those things. Shoot, that saves a lot of time,
All right,
but
babe.
it's fair. I get your point.
So that's what was happening, and he asked me if I thought it was a good idea. Now the so-called manager that presented this management deal to him requested $200 a month, and then once the artist started making money, he would start taking a commission. To me, automatically, all of those things are red flags. The two biggest red flags are number one, you're reaching out to manage somebody who isn't doing anything. So as a manager, you need to manage people who are doing things so that one, you're needed, and two,
And
you're able to make a commission off of what they're making. Otherwise, your ass out. You're not doing anything. And number two, asking for $200 a month. And that's like this the scammer sweet spot. Anywhere between 50 and like $300. You know what I mean? Because like I look at it, there are probably, and I'm really critical of PR and paying for PR, especially in this day and age. But yes, at a certain level, when I was in radio, and you've heard this number being thrown around, it's anywhere between like $50 and $100,000, to get a national radio campaign going. When you're playing with that kind of money, there are only a few agencies that can really offer an international or a national radio campaign, and they will request that kind of money because it's a really big task. But how many thousands of people are there on the internet saying, "Yeah, I can get you on radio for 50. I can get you on radio for 150." Because that's the scammer sweet spot. They'll take that money from you and not get you a damn thing. And it's graphic designers on Instagram, $50. Doing features for 150, management for 200. That should throw you off. But then also, logically speaking, if a manager works on commission and they're working to enhance your career and build your career up with you so that both of you are making money, why is that person asking you for money up front? So I tweeted about that, and you wanted to talk about that today.
Yeah, because I mean, again, going back to the point that we made in the beginning of the podcast, man, like every situation is different. I mean, the idea, so the typical range of what a manager receives is like 15 to 25%, right? But I have, and even when I was recently managing Futuristic, and I stopped recently, but our agreement was a set fee per month. And then like going forward on the things that I would work on, commission on that. But the reason that was the case was because he was already making good money. Like he's been making, money for, close to a decade now. So it didn't make sense for me to start managing him and start receiving, sorry, 20% on the stuff that he was already making. I didn't think that was fair. Now, there are going to be some managers that come in and want to claim 20% on even what he was already making. And again, it's just an opinion of mine. Like, like I didn't think that that was fair. There would be other managers that think that is what they should make. Maybe they have more experience than me, or maybe they just have a different opinion. So the management thing is always, at the end of the day, like both parties just need to agree and have a clear understanding of what the compensation is going to be. For these up and coming artists, I do hear, and I think you just said it as well, like if you don't have anything to manage, then maybe you don't need a manager. Well, I don't even necessarily agree with that because, like, Hop didn't really have anything to manage at the time. It was like we created something together and eventually there was something to manage. So if you have somebody that's smart or that's willing to help out even in the early days to start creating some income streams because they see that you have potential, then there is a relationship that can be worked out. Now, what the compensation is, I've seen that be different across the board, right? We just had Travis Thompson's manager on the MEC. It was probably one of our best MEC live sessions a couple weeks ago. And that was one of the questions I asked him is when he first started working with Travis Thompson, of course he wasn't making any money. Like, how was he being compensated? He was just saying that he believed in his talent, so he wanted to be along for the ride and help contribute. And as long as Travis was taking care of like travel, like he basically wanted to make sure, and his name's Shelton Harris, by the way. Shelton just wanted to make sure that he was never coming out of pocket for anything because he knew eventually, Travis would be in a space so they could have a more conventional management agreement. It's probably he has co-managers now, so I think it's a 20%, and they, him and his co-manager split the 20, 10 and 10, and they brought on a co-manager, another cat named Benner, who is kind of like the more experienced cat, the cat that has like all of the relationships that can connect the dots and try to get them on TRL and try to get them in a sway interview and things like that. So started off with just Shelton in the trenches. Eventually, they built up some buzz, signed with Epic. I think Benner came on before that, but Benner really came on later and really pushed things forward. So, Shelton didn't mind not getting paid anything until, they signed with Epic, essentially. There might be some young cats, because just like artists have to pay their dues, I feel like managers have to pay their dues too if you're unexperienced, right? It's going to take some time. That's kind of like your internship, in my opinion. It's going to take some time to really figure out, what your role is and to really add value. So maybe you don't deserve anything in the beginning, right? And if you're more experienced, maybe there's another cat who is super experienced that says, okay, there's some potential in this young cat right here. I'm not going to ask him to pay me a fee because I know he can. I'm not going to get a commission because there's not really anything coming in. But maybe he wants like equity in the business for his efforts and for connecting a lot of the dots. Some people might say, "Oh, that's a scam," but I'm looking at like I'll look at that like if somebody really is providing that value. Again, if somebody is providing that value and it's not just lip service, and they are connecting those dots super early, then maybe they do deserve some equity in your business, going forward. So man, it's just so different. Like like we can't give just advice. I mean, I think cats that just randomly reach out on Twitter and say, "Hey, give me $200," and you can't really research what they've done. You can't see other artists. You don't really know why they've reached out to you. They don't really know anything about you. They're just, saying they're gonna do stuff for $200 a month. To me, that's a scam. But the bigger point is you can work out different agreements with managers, and it's going to be different. And people just have different opinions. People just have different experience levels, talent levels. Like, so I think it's a good discussion to have. But like I said, I know I rambled for a long time, but at the end of the day, communication and transparency, as long as everybody's on the same page, hopefully you guys can just, get to work. And
Well, here's my issue then with kind of everything you just said. Every scenario that you described was a situation in which two or more people came together with a common goal and really worked out details and
right.
really figured out what they all wanted out of a situation. And they were all serious and they were all actual physical meetings. On top of that, the managers in all of these scenarios were actual managers. In the scenarios that I'm describing, you have somebody contacting or advertising management services. And let me stop there and ask you, as a manager, do you think that a so-called manager who goes on the internet and offers management services to anybody,
Yeah, that's crazy.
is that something that can be worthwhile or valuable to a person? If you're a manager that, or if you sign on to a manager that is giving services to everybody.
Nah, that's crazy because like management, that's a very, I don't know if intimate is probably not the right word, but it's like that's a very close relationship with an artist. Like you're gonna be heavily invested in that artist. It's gonna be a lot of time. So that's not something that you can just agree to lightly, right? A real manager is really gonna want to do their due diligence. It's probably gonna take some time. I mean, I can imagine a few cases here and there where it's, maybe immediate, after meeting somebody. I don't know. But for me, like you'd really want to know that person, right? You really want to know how they work, what their personality is. Like you really have, because you're going to be spending a lot of time with them. That's a lot of trust that an artist is putting in a person. So it's not a quick transaction. So if there is, so that you're right, Payne, that is a red flag. If somebody is treating that relationship like a quick transaction or like a haircut, like just a quick service, that to me is definitely a red flag.
Yeah, and actually, when I posted that tweet, and all I did was include the language from the original DM I got. I didn't say anybody's names because I actually don't know the name of, or I didn't know the name of this person. I still have no idea who he is. A couple of people actually reached back out and said, "Oh, that sounds like so and so." So, yeah, they started sharing stories about how this particular person has been contacting a whole lot of people, a whole lot of musicians, rappers, producers, offering the same services. So I visited the guy's site, and I'm not going to give his name out because there are still a lot of people who might think this is legitimate, and I don't want blood on my hands when they pay this $200 fee because I gave out the guy's name. They end up getting scammed. But I looked at his page, and tell me how you feel about this recent tweet that he posted. If you need artist/producer management, shoot me a direct message. Let's make some moves. And he's posted that daily, about 5-10 times a day.
Yeah, I don't know any legit manager that offers services like that publicly. Like it just doesn't happen. Now, I think this is a scam, and I wouldn't. And maybe it's not a like it. It's not a scam, and I don't know this cat, so maybe he really think he offers that kind of value, to people. I doubt it. I wouldn't put my money. I wouldn't reach out to him. I think it would be stupid for any of artists to reach out to this person, And if you're that desperate for a manager, I think that's pretty sad. But, in his mind, maybe he feels like he offers value. There was another cat that was, I'm trying to find his tweet. He wasn't offering management services, but I went back and forth with him. He said something. He said, if an artist has 25 to 40,000 for a marketing budget, I can get them on in a major way, pending they're marketable and got work ethic. So I responded and I just said, how would you allocate that budget? And I don't really know this cat. I don't even know how this cat's tweet ended up. Twitter be playing games now. They put other things that
They just
people.
put shit that's gonna piss you off right in front of your face, huh?
Yeah, well, it's like people that I follow like some other stuff, and then it ends up in my feed. I gotta switch my settings. That's some bullshit.
And your friends.
But yeah, that too, I guess. But anyway, I asked him how would you allocate that budget. He responded with a smart response. He said it all depends on the artist. So many variables. I don't follow templates. Okay, cool. That's fair. I said that's fair, but can you post some links of people that you've worked with or people that you've had success with? And of course, that's when the communication stopped, right? And it's like, who out here is saying if you have 25,000 to 40,000, I can get you on in a major way.
Those
It's
scammers.
maybe it sounds appealing to people that don't really know what they're doing and that they're desperate, or maybe they've been in a hole and don't really have any momentum. So they're like, okay, maybe this cat knows what he's talking about. And this cat runs a website. I don't know how much traffic this website gets, but it's like you can't really make these guarantees with people, and obviously once I responded with, hey, can you just send me some links? Because if you are doing this for people, shit, come on the Music Entrepreneur Club and let's talk about your case studies, your success stories. That's typically all you need to do to get to the bottom of these potential scammers. It's like, hey, who have you worked with? Let me talk to them, see if they have some proof of what they're talking about. And if it responds with silence or,
Cussing you
uh,
out. They'll turn up on
yeah,
you.
yeah, because obviously that's where the conversation stopped. It's like, hey, shoot me some links, and obviously no links. Like, and you've never done this before, but you have the confidence to tweet out that if you have 20, like, I wouldn't say that. Like, that's just a dumb thing to say, right? Like, because it doesn't necessarily, it's not like there's not very many things where you can do like, okay, let's just work on this one project and then you're going to be popping, right? Like if a manager's not talking about like a long-term strategy, something that you're just biting off every single day and like constant, consistent, long-term growth, then I probably wouldn't want to be a part of that team because it doesn't typically work like, hey, let me just spend. And I know that there's some gurus that talk about this. Hey, if you have this budget, then we can get you on. It don't necessarily work like that. You should be thinking long term. You should be thinking building on small wins and growing every single week, right? It's not just like a one-off project. Boom, you're out of there. At least that's it. But and if you have been successful, just like giving somebody 10,000, 20,000, please talk to me. I want to know what you guys did in order to, get on with 20,000, 30,000. I'd like to learn myself and come on to MEC. Let's share that knowledge.
Those conversations are frustrating. I finally asked, you know, not to change the subject, but just asking for people to prove that they were successful doing something stupid. Spamming, for example, someone said, I was very successful and I spammed, and now I work for a label. What label? He told me the label. Oh, they have 1,000 total Facebook likes. Good job. You're interning at a label that doesn't matter. Great. Cool, man. Spamming works. So back to, and this is what I want to end on. Back to this conversation that I had with the producer who was thinking about paying this $200 fee to this manager to manage him every month. He really focused on the fact that this guy had a verification badge on Twitter. Let me tell you something. I have a verification badge on Twitter. If I wanted to wake up tomorrow and scam somebody, I could do that. That verification badge has nothing to do with it. A lot of people have verification badges. A lot of racist people have verification badges. Verification badge doesn't mean you're a good person.
Right.
Verification badge doesn't mean everything you say is legitimate. And it's just this idea that people really want to believe that they're exceptional, that somebody cares about their music enough to offer them a service that's actually going to help them, and that in spite of the landscape right now in music being so dangerous, and in spite of all these scams happening to so many people, that people want to believe that won't happen to them because they're somehow more talented or more deserving, and so that somehow protects them from being scammed. And I'll read you. This isn't a DM from that person, but it's once I sent out the tweet, people started sharing conversations they were having with this guy who's the manager, and so here's what he said. I will promote hard on Twitter. This is him describing how he's going to manage you for $200 a month. You're going to love this, Dame. I will promote hard on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, which is not what a manager should be doing. I can also manage your social media growth. I can take your music and push to get right up on blogs. I will go after features, placements, and licensing deals. So already he's doing the job of social media. Well, social media influencer because he's doing it himself. A publicist, a social media strategist, a beat broker, and a publisher / licensing house. I have a big hip hop jazz album that's going to do big numbers, so it's a good time to jump on with me.
Yeah. So don't get me wrong. Like a manager can help with those things, but if a manager at its core is not talking about like your brand, your music, your foundation, your team, like your manager, whatever your goals are for your music, your manager is supposed to help build a strategy to eventually, help you achieve your goals, right? And little things like social media and stuff like that, of course that's part of the plan. But if he's not talking about that core, not your brand, your goals, your aspirations, things like that, really taking care of the foundation that's going to support your long-term growth. What he's talking about is like quick hits, like quick wins. That's what hire people to help with when and if you get to a certain point. So it's obvious to me that this cat is not like a true manager, and I'd stay away from that. I did want to touch briefly on the blue check thing. I think that we put too much trust into that verification badge, like Payne was saying. And I think it's just like an excuse to be lazy, right? Like you still got to do your research on people. Dig a little deeper, ask some questions, ask people for references. Like don't be shy when you're about to hire somebody or work with somebody to ask them like, hey, who have you worked with and can I speak with them? And if that gets weird, then that's probably not the person for you because they should be happy to provide references. The people that I've worked with, talk to them. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not trying to hide that from you. And if I was trying to hide anything from you, then, I was probably being shady. Like if somebody's trying to hide something from you, they're probably being shady. So take your time. Like none of this stuff should be, it shouldn't be like, oh, if you don't get back to me in 30 seconds, you're not going to get this deal. Like all this stuff, somebody really wants to manage you, they'll take time and they'll understand that it's an important decision for your career. And it doesn't have to be like so super quick and transactional.
So how much did you charge Hobson to start managing him?
I didn't charge him anything. I put up my money, and that's why it was more than just a management agreement. That's why it was, a partnership.
Well, let's end on that so people can see exactly what the difference is between something legitimate and someone who actually cares about you and someone who just wants to make $200 off you because they're making $200 off 15 other people, and that's how they're paying their mortgage. Appreciate all of you for listening. Next week, I want to talk more about music technology moving forward and seeing what's going to replace the current model, which is playlist central. And some other ideas about trends in rap music. MEC tour coming soon. Collab for
And
the Crown.
oh yeah. Real quick update. And MEC, use the code MEC podcast to get free access to the MEC for a few weeks. So you can see how dope these sessions have been. Please start joining our live sessions. And we do have the Collab for the Crown contest starting sometime next month. That is a rap contest where you have to collaborate with another artist in order to participate. We got some really dope prizes, some surprise prizes for the winners, and it's just good exposure and good practice for everyone that participates. So there's no reason not to. It's a fun experience, and I hope a ton of people participate, and we have to watch thousands of videos. Yeah, they better be good though. I don't like watching whack videos.
MusicEntrepreneurClub.com. Appreciate all of you. Peace.
Peace.